Hello! Today we will be drawing a bar graph to represent data. We will also be looking at what are the positives of drawing a bar graph versus a pie chart. A marketing firm's survey had 100 grocery shoppers. Suppose the frequency distribution below represents the responses to the survey question, which grocery stores have you shopped at in the last month? Today we'll be answering part A and B. A. Draw a vertical bar graph for the results shown in the frequency distribution. And B. Would a pie chart make sense for these data? Why or why not? So here is our frequency distribution chart. We have 5 stores and the frequency in which shoppers visited these stores. So our first step is going to start with our bar graph over here. This is our x-axis or x side in our chart. So that's going to be down here. And then our y side. So this is our y-axis over here. So I will label this store. It's which store was visited. And over here, our frequency. So how many times did, or to which stores were visited. So we're going to start with Publix. Actually, before we get started, we need to check, how high do we need to go on our bar graph? So I look for our maximum number is 65. So we need to at least reach up to above 65. Since we have a variety of numbers, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, I suggest we go with counting by tens. So we will start with 10, 20, and so on up our bar graph. Okay, so now for Publix, our number of visitors to this store was 50. So we're going to max out at 50. And with bar graphs, we're simply drawing a bar up to that amount 50. So here's my bar. I can choose a nice color to color it in. And I will label that as well, Publix. So our next bar graph will be Trader Joe's at 40. So we draw it up to 40. Notice how I leave space. When drawing a bar graph, we always leave space. Otherwise, it's called a histogram. I'll give some color here. And this is Trader Joe's. Our next is Fairway, and we have 28. So it's not exactly in here, but we know halfway is 25, 26, 27, 28. So it's almost going to be to my blue line over here. We have Aldi at 33 visits. So above 30, remember halfway is 35, so slightly below, which is going to be slightly above this blue line. And our last category is Other at 65 visits. So up here is 60, halfway. Okay, so now we have our completed bar graph. We can nicely see which ones were visited the most. Let's go back to our questions. So we finished drawing a vertical bar graph. Now, would a pie chart make sense for these data? Why or why not? So a pie chart might look nice. We might think, that would display our categories nicely. However, we need to consider something when creating a pie chart. In a pie chart, our categories must not have any overlap. So when we are considering this for this equation, we need to ask ourselves, is there any overlap in our categories? So to answer that best, we should go back to our question. Which grocery stores have you shopped at in the last month? Does this specify that we can only choose one category? Or does it refer to multiple stores? It says which grocery stores, plural here. And so if I were filling out this survey, I would mark every single store I have shopped at. So if I have shopped at Trader Joe's and say Safeway, then I'd mark other and Trader Joe's, and now I am in both categories. So creating a pie chart would not be very useful because we are going to have overlap. So bar graphs are best when we have overlap and pie charts are not. So I would simply say a pie chart does not make sense because the categories overlap. And that concludes part A is our bar graph and part B is our pie chart.